Here we are for a new Split the Difference. I'm your host, Jesse. Today we have the horror Hope.
Thank you for taking me on this existential crisis of a ride.
I'm sorry that the ride was so long and it was so flat. And also we have our Pitchmaster General, Seth.
I'm here, assuming I'm not in a simulation.
Assuming you're not an NPC, but we'll get into that. So today we're talking about what is widely considered one of the greatest films ever made, and I'm going to put that in big air quotes. We'll get into that. We're talking about World on a Wire, directed by Rainer Werner Fassbinder from 1973, versus the 1999 remake, The 13th Floor, directed by Joseph Rusnak. And these are both based upon the same book, Simulacrum 3 by Daniel Galouye. I think it's Galouye. I can't pronounce his name. But yeah. So yeah, we're talking about a Fassbinder film today. And I never thought we would really have a remake of one of those. I don't think any of his other films have been remade, not as far as I'm aware. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the best filmmakers of all time. Only lived, I think, about 37 years old. Died in his hotel room he died of a cocaine overdose.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He directed this film when he was 27.
Wow.
27
Okay.
years old.
That's making a lot of the choices in this movie make sense to me now.
He pumped out one movie per year, sometimes 3 movies a year.
Wow.
He was like a machine, just like going and going and going. It's all the coke.
That's the background info I needed going into this. God.
It's all the coke. It's all the coke. Yeah. Yeah, he was a fascinating individual as a person. There was also, unfortunately, allegations of things like misogyny, and you can kind of see it in this movie.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. There's a lot of women slapping in these movies. That's kind of...
He's a 27-year-old German man in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So, here's the general pitch of both these movies. The world is not real. Have you seen that movie called The Matrix? That's a really good movie. And I think that's going to be a big issue we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all the films that came to be because of this.
Yeah.
But first, I want to start with World on a Wire. Before we start, though, I'm so sorry for the length of this one. 3.5 hours. I'm so sorry.
So before I talk to either of you, about it, I found it on YouTube. And
yes, this has been uploaded to YouTube. It's been put up there, and somebody just hasn't taken it down.
So I didn't need to get Criterion or anything, but but sometimes I've watched movies on YouTube where it was like 5 hours long, quote unquote, but it's because they doubled the film to like get around it being taken down, or like they'll do the whole film and then half of it just to like again get around being it taken down.
To get around copyright strikes. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I wonder if this is the case. So I like quickly did a fast forward through it just to like see if I saw some of the scene, and I was like, oh my god, no, this is the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like,
technically it's 2 movies. Yeah, technically it's 2. This originally was a television film, aired on German television in 1973. And what had happened was he made it for television, and you can really feel it. It gets padded out for commercials.
Yeah.
You can feel it. It's there. I mean, this is still expert level filmmaking.
And I would honestly argue that that would add to the experience. Imagine a fucking Pepsi commercial after someone telling you that there's a potential that you're just an NPC and that you're just supposed to open up your fucking mouth and eat that ad. Yeah. Like that works for me. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it definitely feels, it makes you question things. I mean, especially in 1973, I can imagine this being mind blowing.
Dude, and imagine being high. Imagine being high in the 70s and just like, oh my god.
I mean, I'm sure he was high when he was editing, so...
Right.
Yeah.
I will say this was some of the best cinematography, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's so
Dude,
good.
Hope,
some
yes,
best
absolutely.
That is the thing that kept me going, honestly. Like,
oh, yeah.
If it was shitty cinematography, I would have turned it off and said, Jesse, I'm sorry, but fuck this. But,
like you're gonna bow out. Yeah.
Like literally, the cinematography is what kept me going. Like just some of the shots, the lighting, the draw of the camera, some of the mirror work was beautiful.
Yes. Oh my God, dude. There's a
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we're gonna say, Seth? Go ahead.
The shot where they go through the arm of the carafe to show the mirror on the wall, cutting back and forth in that conversation to represent the like lower level of reality. Dude, my brain was popping.
Or inside the computer room, when the technicians are in there and you see like that the mirrors against mirrors, you see the endless rows of the technician at the station. It's like, there's like just endless levels of reality. Yeah.
Did both of you catch the scene when they're in the restaurant and Eva's leaving? You see her reflection in the mirror and then it stops in like 2 panes of the mirror and then it comes back. I was like, ooh.
What a glitch.
Yeah.
What a glitch.
The NPC glitched out. Yeah. Yep. That's one thing that, you know, there is a lot of stuff to admire here. If I was watching this in 1973, my mind would be fucking blown.
Yeah.
I mean, just
absolutely.
Like 1973, not much else to do. I'm going to sit here and watch an hour and a half movie. But one thing I would say is that the film, because it was made for television, you can feel the padding. I'm really not a fan of this pacing. It really is not for me. Because the follow-up film... Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I would love to have gone up to him and say, hey, do this movie, but as a movie, you know? Not as like a TV special. Like, the pacing kind of felt like when Stephen King did his, like, It series run for TV.
Yeah, that gave me the same vibes, too. Yeah.
And then
it's like you're trying to get every incarnation of the drama out of it possible instead of, like, picking the very best scenes that you could have picked out of. Like, you're just getting every incarnation instead of just the best ones.
So I would love to have, like, gone back in time and be like, okay, do this because you're being hired to do it, but also on the side, make a movie.
Yeah. I mean, this technically disappeared for a long time. It aired on German television in 1973, and it was just lost. Like, it just vanished. Yeah. And somebody somewhere, it's uploaded a digital print to YouTube or something back in, like, 2010. And then, like, film historians started finding prints. And they just immediately gave it to Criterion. It's like, yes, put it back in print. And it's now on Criterion channel. It's everywhere. It's, you know, it's still on YouTube. It's still up. Even though it is the Criterion version, so it's the highest quality version, somebody uploaded it to YouTube. No one's taken it down. I don't know why. I'm guessing it's because they put part 1 and 2 together, so it's long enough to avoid copyright strikes. Yeah, it's that. But.
Well, and is there copyright on a German film from the 70s? Like, our copyright laws may not even be able to cover.
They probably don't even apply.
Yeah, so it might be free use for us over here, and there are a lot of free use movies in the Criterion collection because part of it is holding for historical value. So even if there are, like, you know, a rights thing in Germany about it, in America there may not be because of when it came out.
Yeah. So Seth, you had never seen World on the Wire either. What were your thoughts watching this?
Oh boy, yeah. So I wanna give a shout out to friend of the podcast, Josh Dysart. He primed me a little bit going into it.
Did he say get ready for a very, very long movie?
Yeah, and like I knew this was going to be a long one, but also, like, if we decided to do the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like all 3 movies in a sitting, I'd do that too. Just like there are things worth marathoning in this way, I think. And so I did run this out back to back. I did both parts immediately, one after the other. I went late that night, and I feel enriched for the experience. I don't know if I'll ever do it again.
Yeah,
like I will tell people to check it out, especially like people that are interested in epistemology as a topic. Like this is something really, really worth jumping into, but I don't know if I'd sit through it again, to be honest. Like it was a great, cool experience. It's kind of like it's kind of like going to a museum that sticks to the same curation year by year. It's like, I went and I saw it and it was great and I got the pictures and I am enriched for it and I tell people about it now, but like, I don't know if I'll repeat. That was kind of my walkout.
Some films only require one watch. You know, I think this is one of them. You know, like Fassbender's follow-up film to this was Ali: Fear Eats the Soul, which is widely considered one of his best movies. It's a personal favorite of mine. I saw it back when I was in film school, and I still watch it. And in that movie, it's only 93 minutes. So he went from a 3.5-hour movie down to 90 minutes. And guess what? I kind of get more out of Ali: Fear Eats the Soul. And it's mainly because we've seen so many films since this that follow this trajectory, that your world is a simulation. You know, The Matrix, Existence, Videodrome, Eternal Sunshine. There's so many films that do the same premise.
TV.
And on television as well, there's multiple shows that have done this. I mean, even like the prequel to Battlestar Caprica has like a game world, which is literally the exact same thing that is in the remake of this film, 13th Floor. It's the same thing, same time frame. They just ripped it off. So I think that the biggest flaw of the movie is the watershed films that came after it. We're seeing it from our eyes now.
Right.
So it's
like to
it's
be
hard for
in
me to
73.
Yes.
Put myself in those shoes and see it compared to 2023. We're talking damn near 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. 50 years.
That's a huge leap. Like I always say with technology, it's crazy that like even from year to year, especially in the modern age, our technology has advanced so much. And think of it like it was like it was only 3 or 4 years ago that there was like the space race and shit, you know? For like that film in 73. It was only 3 or 4 years prior to the 73 version that we had the space race, and that was like the big thing, and you know,
right.
And now
and you're allowed to ask these kind of questions now because we got to the moon, we did it. You get to ask the question, what if this isn't real?
Yeah. And now, again, comparatively to now, we've seen other nebulas and universes and all this shit through like our telescopes and through so it's one of those things I wish I could like flip a switch and be like, all right, let me just
forget about the Matrix, forget about Existence.
That simulation, go back into like the 70s as an NPC, watch this, and then come back to my world.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it widely considered at this point, there's been multiple philosophers that have stipulated that our world is a simulation, or that our universe is a simulation we are viewing. It's a theory. I mean, you can't prove it, obviously.
So this is this is a stage, right? Yeah, this is a stage I'd love to step out on because this is something that I'm like obsessed with. You don't get raised with as much religious trauma as me, and then still wonder like what's out there. You know what I mean? Like the question is good. So the thought is that if we are able to make simulations indistinguishable from reality, it would only lead us to assume that we have already done that and we are in one now. So it's kind of a circular theory to like if you believe simulation theory, if you believe simulation theory, then you believe in a circular theory, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, and I tweeted about this while we were watching through. Jesse was mentioning this off air, and he put it so much more perfectly than I could have. I don't give a fuck about simulation theory. I have work tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's.
I was trying to work tomorrow at 9 a.m., dude.
Dude, I was trying to sum it up in like 3 tweets and like really like just kind of talking about my feelings on it. And then as we get set up for the episode today, Jesse's like, I don't care about simulation theory. I have work tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Like if there's no way to send a message out. If there's no way to get a message out and say, hey, we're in here, we're NPCs, and we're suffering, please help us. If there's no way to do that, it's a cool theory to put into movies. But, like, it's not going to change my NPC life out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd be great if I was on mushrooms and I was pondering that, but I'm not. I'm still just an NPC in a very, very capitalist world.
Well, and something that bugged me about both films is the fact that they, without their little winky nods at the end, they both want us to believe that there's a real world to land on. And I just, if you're willing to accept that there's a simulation below you, and then your mind gets blown and there's a simulation above you, the thing above that is definitely a simulation too. Like, why would you assume that is the real world? Like, we're 3 deep at this point. We're infinitely deep at this point. It doesn't matter.
That makes me
if I could jump in for... No, go ahead.
Honestly, that makes me think of... there's a Futurama episode because they have, like, the sewer people. And then they're like, oh, we have the sewers in our sewer. And they're like, what makes you think there's not a sewer above you guys? They're like, nope, we got the sun. We see it at all. We're good. Like that was their proof that they're not in a sewer because like they had the sun, they had the space, and they're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
right.
If only we had that proof.
Yeah. If I could jump into the remake for a second, 13th Floor, which by the way has like a 24% of Rotten Tomatoes. Fuck you, it's better than that. Fuck you. Sometimes you get it wrong. It came out the same year as The Matrix, and you were dunking on it. Fuck off. Yeah. If I could, the very last shot of 13th Floor does that pew, like a television monitor turning off. That's like, oh, they turned the computer off, which implies with that last shot, oh, it's another simulation. Mm-hmm. So it answers your question, Seth. It is another simulation. They're trapped in there forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I like that wink. I also, you can interpret that as the...
It's the end of the movie.
Well, no. The end of the movie being you being cut off from like another source, and you are the NPC. Question your reality.
Okay, yeah.
Like it I think also coming out the same year as The Matrix. Like they want you to like get a little meta with it at that point.
Existence came out the same year as well. David Cronenberg's film. It's these 3 movies all came out at the also Dark City. Also came out.
Dark City. This one gave me Dark City vibes too a lot.
The pre-2000, like this a year before the turn of the century, and everyone's thinking, what's going to happen when we turn to Y2K? Is the world going to end? Are we in a simulation? And everybody just went to work the next day.
Right.
Yeah. Simulation. After Y2K, the end of the world became a cliche. It became a cliche. It's like, it doesn't matter anymore. You still got to go to work. So yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Hope? Are you in a simulation? Do you care? How do you get a message out?
Honestly, I've always had this like theory before I've seen any of these films, before anything. I've always had like, it's very hard to explain. There's times where I felt like very out of body, and I'm like, this isn't real. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like back and I'm like, oh, what was that? And I just go about my day. You know, I don't know if it's just maybe I am in a simulation, you know, but there's always, I'm guessing at least everybody's had that like out of body dread feeling or whatever, at least once in their life. You know, and it may be because it's been programmed into us, maybe because, you know, we wish for something more, or just so many other things it could be. Or maybe, you know, it's that whole like reincarnation theory, you know, it might not be simulation, but maybe it's a reincarnation. So you're, there's so many different theories, and like you could make a philosophy video of this and talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and you still won't ever get a fucking answer, you know?
Right.
And so just, I liked the 13th Floor because I could sit back, chill out for 90 minutes, be like, okay, cool, I'm going to think about that, but then go about my day.
Yeah.
The 13th Floor is the Cliff Notes version of World on a Wire. But I mean, World of Wire is very dense. Very, very dense.
My God. Yeah.
We were talking about this off air. I don't know what the segue was, why we were talking about this. We were talking about, like, foods we can eat, and I was talking about hardtack, is that nutritional biscuits that you can get.
Yeah.
But they taste like shit, and you have to like dunk them in water or coffee in order to soften them up so you can chew them. But they're incredibly good for you. They're nutrition. You know, if you are in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness and there's nothing else in your pack but that as food, it will sustain you.
Yeah.
But you have to chew this gunk.
It's like the lembas bread from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lambus bread. Lambus bread. How many of those did you eat? 4.
One bite's supposed to sustain you.
How many did you eat? 4. Yeah. That's kind of the issue I have with World of Wire is that there's so many dense shots and so much to pick apart. Like the moment when the woman gets crushed at the construction site and he just kind of goes about his day, clearly implying that he's an NPC and his user isn't using him at that moment.
Right.
Yeah. So you upon a second watch, it's like, okay, I get it. Doesn't move the plot forward, but. Right. It does kind of move the character forward, I suppose. But it like you were saying, Hope, there's those moments where something weird will happen around us. Like we see like a glitch. Where we have an outer body experience. We notice something that's just not quite right.
Yeah.
They copied this in The Matrix with the deja vu moment where the cat repeats its cycle. This but in the real world, if we were to have that happen to us, we'd be like, oh, that's weird. And then we just go about our day, which is probably why you have an hour and a half of him for the first part of this film, where he's just kind of like going about his life because he's always going to be seeing weird shit because it's he's going about his day.
Yeah.
But that also means that not much happens in the first half of the
movie. The first half of the movie is a lot like walking into a room and forgetting why you were there. It's like you get to enter. Yeah.
Well, he is an NPC, so I guess it makes sense.
Listen, I think we all agree this is a well-executed visual storytelling of like really
it's beautiful. I can acknowledge the movie.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge the movie is a part of history. I can acknowledge it. I acknowledge it as one of the best-looking movies ever made, but I was completely emotionally disconnected because I've seen so many other movies that do it much better. It doesn't help that the main character is an asshole.
Yeah.
I will also say, too, that I will be the first to say I'm not the most well-versed in German film. You know, I'm more like French, Italian, Japanese, Korean, of my foreign film. Haven't really tapped into the German filmmaking. I've maybe seen a handful. Again, I don't know if
here's how I can sum it up: cultural guilt.
Again, I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know what it is, but there was no fucking emotion throughout the entirety of the film, other than at the beginning, or other than like the end of the first movie, where he's like laughing maniacally. I was like, holy shit, they showed emotion.
Yeah.
What? But like the rest of it, it was like watching the Ben Nye for Clear Eye commercial, like Clear Salt commercial, like voodoo economics. Like, you know, it was like, where's your emotion? Like, even like, I love you. Oh no, I was shot.
Yeah.
Oh
dude,
no, he
and
died. And maybe that's such part of the NPC thing. I don't know, but it drove me insane. If you're gonna have a film that long and no emotion.
I would say even like Tron does this story better because you have Jeff Bridges, who is a human being that literally is thrown into a computer world, and now he's injecting the emotion into the world, and it's affecting the system. Not that Tron is a great movie. I loved it when I was a kid. I acknowledge its importance to cinema, but I can acknowledge also that I was a kid, and you can grow out of things that you liked as a kid.
You didn't like any of that projection animation, man? What are you talking about? God, man. Tron is a visual feast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just unfortunately also kind of boring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get into this kind of topic at this time, I think, because I don't know if they have the same like integrated technological, like technology is part of our society now. You're not literally contributing to society unless you are doing it in some way, in some form through technology, whether that's through your cell phone calls. I know some people are like, well, I'm off the internet. It's like, you call people on the phone. I know you do. You know, and that's across the internet. Like that, we are better able to talk about that integration. And I think back here in the 70s, we're watching this pontification on it, and then we're also seeing their cultural filmmaking is not emotional. Like they are the kind of people that if you're dealing with an existential crisis, bury that shit deep.
Yeah.
Go more stoic. Like we have a main character who's also described as the good version of this character. This is Good Stiller that we're following.
Yeah, he's the good one? Okay.
And this man is like fucking and chain smoking through like scientific interviews and shit. I'm like, what was going on in Germany that he's just like, oh yeah, I'm telling you about the fact that I'm basically God to the simulated world over a cigarette in my office. And I'm like, bro, like this is the good guy.
Once again, cultural guilt.
I will say that was a nice touch in the remake, how the good guy did not smoke, but whenever he was taken over, he was smoking. You know,
picked up bad habits from his NPC character. Yeah, that was clever. Yeah, the two brains are beginning to mix and mingle. It's like it's the ending of World on a Wire, where he does like escape the simulation. All the mirrors are gone in the room. He can look out the windows. He doesn't feel like he's stuck in a prison anymore, and he's with Ava. It's like, okay, that's great, but couldn't you also imply that maybe that's another simulation?
100%.
Yeah, like there's no door. He's just trapped in that room with her. It's like, okay, could be another simulation. Never made totally clear.
Infinite regress, man. Turtles all the way down. I did like that they kept the turtle metaphor within that too. That really added a lot. I think something a turtle would have been probably welcome in the 13th Floor as like a visual kind of staple, and seeing the Achilles and the turtle, and that's even a different. They even pull a second metaphor out than turtles all the way down with the infinite regress. So like to find out that this is a 28-year-old in the 70s doing this film really adds a lot to the experience in retrospect to me. Like it kind of makes me think back, and like it makes all the risk that much riskier. I'll put it that way. Like even the risk of this being boring. Like this is a kid saying, no, what I have to say is important enough to do the long version. And I respect that. Like now I think we have better sensibilities with the way that editing is evolved. Yeah. And I don't besmirch the idea that this could take a cleaner cut. But even at that time, for a 28-year-old to say, "Now this shit's important. I want it to be hours of talking about this. I want to talk with my audience about this idea." And I bet that's why we still have prints. I bet it was that special and important that it felt like a conversation at the time when it came out. The short version of this might have disappeared entirely. It might have been that forgettable at the time. Mm-hmm. Just a guess. Just a guess.
It would have devolved into a generic thriller, and that's one thing I would also say is a negative. It's labeled in genre as a thriller. It's not very thrilling.
Yeah, this is like a noir thriller.
Yeah. It has more vibes of something like Dark City, but if Dark City was like an extended cut, it was like it's a lot of like pondering and it's not. Yeah. Which I see that. Which I like Dark City a lot. I want to talk about that at some point on Two Whatevers.
I'm so down, dude.
I like to revisit that one. Yeah.
Dark City and Existenz. We could do like a double feature of the creepy side of simulation theory.
The creepy side, the really weird, fucked up side.
Asking the question, who runs this machine on the outside? Why would they torture us in here?
Why would they do this to us?
Throw some video drama while we're at it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We'll throw that in. Yeah. So I guess I could transition us over to the remake, 13th Floor, which I remember seeing the the box art for this, and I was kind of like, "What is this?" It's
Mm-hmm.
not the best box art. I will give it that.
No.
It's just not. That's not the best poster. It doesn't really illustrate what it is. Until you get to that scene in the film itself, and it's like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has, what is it, 24% on Rotten Tomatoes?
You got it wrong, Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it was not. It deserves so much more than that.
Oh, 30%. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Seth, you have a little bit of a rant you want to go on with Rotten Tomatoes. Why don't you go and fire away? Here's 2 shotgun shells. Load up and fire.
Oh, here we go. All right, here, barrel 1, Rotten Tomatoes. If you're going there for the critic score only or the audience score only, either version, but there's a left hand stupid and there's a right hand stupid. Pick yours. You need to be looking at these numbers, as a rounding of like understanding critics will get this shit wrong, because this is straight wrong.
No,
what's the audience score on this one?
Didn't check. What is it? Let's take a look.
I'm gonna bet it's much higher, and it's probably rounded even lower than it deserves to be.
64%.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
what I would give it. That's what I'd give it. Yeah.
See, I think it's pushing 75, 80. Here's my reasoning for that. As I finished the film and it had delivered on all of its promises, I remember thinking, man, my only complaint is that the 90s portion of this looks too 90s. Wait, that means it's aging perfectly as a simulation of the 90s.
Fair.
Holy shit, the movie's and the end of the movie set in 2024, next year. I don't know if y'all have been to Miami lately, but that looked a lot like Miami right now. Y'all, this movie is aging well. I'm just saying, it is aging really fucking well.
Seth, depends on what part of Miami, because I've been to
Yeah.
Okay,
Miami.
yeah.
I don't think
I'm
they
in
have the giant
Florida.
high-rise towers in the middle of the ocean. They don't have that.
Give it a couple years, Jesse. Those icebergs are going to creep up, and Miami's going to. All I'm saying is, I think this movie's aged incredibly well, especially right next to The Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
The Matrix has aged well for a lot of reasons. This, I feel like it holds its own. It's like a underdog dark shadow boxer in the background that I'm like, if you don't want the guns in The Matrix, check this out instead. Like, I think it's pushing 80% in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also,
I think the reason why it got... No, go ahead.
Can we talk about D'Onofrio here?
Such a babe. What the fuck?
Yeah. Damn, he's a good actor. God.
Like, dude was killing it.
Yeah.
Dude was fucking
Yeah, he was
killing
not-
it.
Didn't this come out the same year as The Cell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also another film about alternate reality, technically.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're going inside of a serial killer's mind, and it's his distorted perception of it.
Well, and you got to figure, if you're a kid in the 70s watching something like World on a Wire, watching movies like that at the time, by the time you get to the place where you can make movies in the 90s, that's what you start making movies about. You know?
Yeah. It's aged very well. I'd say probably aged better in terms of showing the 90s than The Matrix did.
Yeah.
Like The Matrix, if you look at the 90s portrayal in that film, it's very kind of stark and bland. There's like no real 90s in the film besides the soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, and
I think
they're
they did it on
they're
purpose,
set.
though.
Yeah,
It is on purpose.
Their set design is supposed to make it look like video game levels. Like, think about that Trinity opening. That looks like every video game shooter that you've seen over the last 10 years. They all have a scene like that now. So, like, I think they were aiming for something else. This is aiming for, like, L.A., because it's doing L.A. across different times as well.
Yeah.
And I think it nails the 30s L.A. too. Like, I was like, this feels like L.A. Noir. Like, Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar people, like, went out and made this as well. And it works great, right? Like, it's a great setting.
I even noticed, like, when you jump in there, it's very brown looking, and I was like, oh god. And then they call it out and says,
They explain it!
Colorization's a little bit off. Need to fix that. It's like, god damn it!
They explain it. Yeah.
Great. That was great.
Oh, I love that. I marked that in my notes. I was like, I have to mark that down. That's great.
Something else I want to compliment. I was watching this with Lexi, and we were like actively watching. So we were like really chirping at the movie. And when they first set up the love interest story, I was like, this is cheesy as fuck. This is bad. Like, I see why this movie's rated 30%. Okay, I get it. And then it turns around. She's not only important to the plot, but she's functionally the hero of the story, coming in to save the good part of her husband from the simulation. So this is like backwardsly a more feminist movie than The Matrix turned out to be.
Yeah.
In like
far more feminist than World on a Wire was.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that. It came back in around in a way that it was like, not only was the love story important, it is the central part of this. And then it reminded me of how much I didn't like Don't Worry, Darling, which was doing the exact same thing as a horror movie, but bad. And I was like, damn, this isn't that hard to do, is it? Like, this actually functions. Yeah. 13th Floor killed it for me for that.
No, it
did. I think the reason why this movie... I think the reason why this didn't get high reviews from critics at the time, one, it's a remake of a Fassbender film. How dare you? How dare you?
Right.
And two, Existence, Dark City, and The Matrix come out the same year, and everyone's just like, dude, we're sick of this shit.
Dude, the simulation watershed, and now we're in the multiverse watershed.
Oh, God, make it end. So a simulation can be an offshoot of another simulation, but that's also a simulation. Like, if you know what? I still have to go to work tomorrow, asshole. Okay? Can you just pay my rent, you dick?
Gonna pay me. Fuck it. I'm still trying to save up money for my fucking surgery. God damn it.
Yeah.
God, fuck you, pay me, man. Jesus.
Something I did enjoy in World on a Wire over 13th Floor, as far as questions they were answering for the audience, I like that World on a Wire leaves us with that question of, if you found out you were in a simulation and knew that there needs to be an Einstein character, like a central character that knows it is a simulation, how would you find that person?
Yeah.
That's ask that in real world. Let's say our world is a simulation and one human plugged into our planet is our like line out to get a message out. How do we find out who that person is?
Yeah.
Like, that's a great, you could do a whole movie around just that setup. Just forego the idea that everyone knows this is a simulation. It's like a Rick and Morty episode. All the NPCs are getting together to like unionize and be like, hey, it sucks in here.
In a lot of ways, 13th Floor is kind of like the, it fulfills the promise that the Matrix sequels did not fulfill.
Yeah.
Simulation on top of simulation. What happens if an NPC character gets out into the real world? What would it really be like? It's like when Smith gets out in Matrix Revolutions, it's just like cheesy as fuck, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's like, what happens to Bane? What happened to his mind?
What was it? The Dennis Haysbert's character, the detective, he was like, look, he was like, you told me this is simulation, just get the fuck out of my life. He's like, I technically have a life here, fuck it, just make mine easier and leave. And I'm like, good on you, man. Fucking good on you.
Yeah, I may be a simulation, but like you, I still have to go to work tomorrow.
Right.
He's also a great insert character to tell you that level is a simulation, because he's just a like detective stereotype come to life in a real functioning world. And I love like when his character learns the truth,
the trench coat and everything.
It like complicates his life to the nth degree, where he's like, oh my God, it's like, what if, you know that rumor that John Constantine was so well written that they wrote him into the real world with magic?
Oh yeah, Alan Moore's bumped into him twice throughout his life, and he's just kind of like said hi to him. It just randomly appears.
That's exactly how I saw the detective in the movie. I was like, oh, that's their John Constantine. He's like such a strong character within the simulation that he just became real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could see that. Yeah, it's yeah. Go ahead. You're gonna say something. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Hope. Had you seen 13th Floor previously, or was this your first watch?
No, I had not seen either film, so I was very fresh for both of these films for this episode.
Woo! Damn, hell yeah. It was my first watch on 13th Floor and World on a Wire as well. It was a very like. It definitely got me thinking about it for a second, especially because it asked the question of like, what if you could get a message out?
Right.
That would bug me. That's the one that leaves me kind of a little bothered because it's like, all right, I do have work tomorrow, but what if we could figure that out and get a message out? Yeah. Like, hell, like I'd stay in here. Like, don't even pull me out. Like, I like my life. Just like let's turn off some of the craziness.
And the 13th Floor did that better, I think, with how their professor like wrote the note. He gave it to the bartender, and it was like, give it. He like, oh, this dude will come, you know. And whereas in the first one, it was like a note that disappeared. It wasn't like, and it was very philosophical. Like, I get they're going for the philosophy of it, but like, I felt like it didn't pay off until like 3 hours in.
Yeah.
So, you know, I felt like because it was 90-minute, it was clear cut, precise, to the point. I praise this movie a lot. I was going in with little to no expectations, quite honestly. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. Like, you really knocked it out of the park, guys. Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This remake gets too much hate. I don't know why.
I mean, part of it is an Emmerich-produced film, and he's going to get, like...
There's that, too.
And there's something to be said about, like, a restrained Emmerich is really, really good. Like, he didn't get popular for no reason. You know what I mean? Like
he stayed back and just produced it. Just got the money together, pitched an idea or two. It's all you got to do, bro. It's all you got to do. We don't need you putting your hands on it.
Stay back in the shadows.
Yeah.
If I had one complaint, the thing that prevents this from, like, a absolute 100% in my mind is Craig Bierko is not my favorite casting in this role. He's not bad.
The lead.
He's not bad.
We talked about this, saying like there could be like a better.
Dude, I think
choice.
Ben Affleck would have been the move at the time. Ben
that.
Affleck leading this movie would have been rough for him. Like, I imagine this being a weird movie in his backstory if it happened. But I could have seen him crushing this.
From Kevin Smith films to this, because that's what he
right.
did.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
When I saw this actor, I was kind of like, is that dude from CSI? You know, the older guy. Like, you know what I'm talking about? From the original version of
kinda.
Yeah, he was in that movie Manhunter. The first time they ever put Hannibal Lecter on film as Brian Cox.
See, I only know him from those scary movie and superhero movie. He did a couple of those back at that time. Oh, he played like Wolverine in the superhero movie, and so that's what that was my face that I recognized him from.
Oh, Jesus Christ. God.
The early 2000s were a horror.
Yeah. They were. So, yeah, I think with World... No, go ahead.
Oh, I've got a question for you guys.
Go, shoot.
The reveals in each film. There's a reveal of, like, there are simulations at play. That's the first reveal in each movie. And then the second reveal is you are also inside a simulation. So 2 reveals per movie, 4 total reveals. Which ones do you think are the strongest across both movies?
Well, the big reveal in 13th Floor where he goes literally to the edge of the world.
Right.
That was good. I quite like that one, yes.
It's the one time that, like, janky CGI works really well. It, like, complements a movie because it's like it really kind of just dispels the story. I like it a lot.
Yeah. The reveal of the NPC characters in World on a Wire, and they just like vanish, just like gone. Like, it's just clever trick. Just like just pull the actor out of the scene. Done. But one thing that annoys me is that every time you see like, oh, the system is changing, the world is altering around me, they put that weird whirring noise on the soundtrack. Like, it gets repetitive to the point where it's like it's kind of annoying. But then again, it's supposed to annoy us. So.
Well, yeah, and it's supposed to, I think, really for your like second watch, people give you clues as to like the background story that's happening within there. It's leaned on a little much. I think it's one of those things that they could have come up with like 2 or 3 ways to give us that signal, without leaning on just the audio. Like there could have been a visual transition to do, or something like that to kind of give us that idea.
Yeah.
A light mood shift that could have been really cool. I'm kind of obsessed with movies that are changing the lighting in shot lately. They pull it off to really great use in the new John Woo movie, where they move the day with like a practical light in the same shot, and I'm kind of obsessed with it lately. So I'd love to see something like that.
They did it in Rolled on a Wire when he falls asleep in Ava's apartment and he just kind of sits there and they just kind of change the light. They did it once.
Mm-hmm.
They did it once. Yeah.
Well, then Jesse, you just mentioned it too. Like the whole, the coloring could use a little work. Like that's a key factor. And then when they got to like the 2024 era, it was brighter even than the mid simulation. So they did do a little light play with that. They went from like a brown sepia tone to like a darker tone to like pure brightness. So they play with that.
Yeah, they play around with the lighting in 13th Floor quite a bit. I mean, you also remember the 73 technical limitations.
Absolutely.
This is pre-Star Wars. This is pre-technological revolution for film. Like this is way well before that. So
and I gotta imagine the budget on it couldn't have been very big at all, because they're beautiful little sets, but like they're very set confined across the movie.
It's mostly set in rooms. Which is, it gets irritating when in the movie is 3.5 hours. It's like, all right, we're back in this fucking room again.
And I guess that's why he played with the camera work so much, because he had to be creative with the camera work in order to do it. So like, the whole it was very annoying that it was set in rooms, but as we've said before, you can be the most creative when you've set yourself in a box. And cinematography wise, so fucking creative. Yeah. Like, so good.
Yeah. Speaking of being set in a box, I love the metaphor of the goldfish in the fish tank in World on a Wire. It's like, I get it. Yeah, and then the very end, his companion drives his car into the river and kills himself, and then like a little goldfish comes up. It's like, oh yeah, because he realizes he's a goldfish trapped in a fishbowl.
Yep,
I get it. The NPC offed himself because he couldn't handle it. Yeah, so it's got these great, interesting ideas, this great philosophy to it. It's just that runtime, really.
Well, I think there's also an argument to be made that it's too real now. Like we there's a video of a like Amazon loading bot. Well, I mean, like in real life, we had a loading bot kill itself. Like it was like an AI powered robot for moving things, and it was able to figure out like that's what it did, and decided I don't want to do that anymore, and just stops working. And I'm like, if this is happening for real,
I was just thinking it.
What
is my purpose? You pass butter. What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my God. Yeah, welcome to the club.
Oh yeah.
It's too real now, man. It's too real. I can't. It's hard to look at it now and be like, oh yeah, it's totally fresh ideas. Nope, this ain't fresh anymore. It's 50 years old.
Yeah, we're living it at this point, and so now it's I want to see the versions that call us to action to find the Eva of our world, so we can get a message out somehow.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it reminds me, even Tron does that better when they go to see the priest, and he sends his disc out into the real world to communicate with Alan Bradley. It's like, even Tron does that concept better. They literally directly talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
God speaking to his program.
Yep.
So yeah. So, great ideas in World of Wire. It's just that runtime really hurts it for me, man. Really hurts it. Like I've said,
it's gonna be the big issue. But as we've said before, like it was for TV, so you have to put that in consideration as well.
Yeah, it's
to do it over again. I'd watch it in 2 parts. I would like one each night. I think I probably would have got a little more out of it that way.
Agreed.
Yeah. It as a piece of cultural film history, as a piece of intellectual cinema, I acknowledge it is aces. Perfect. As like a just want to throw something on and just kind of enjoy it,
No.
No. Unless I am super baked or on mushrooms, I wouldn't do it again. It's just it's not that it's too heady, it's that it's too long. It just that runtime really hurts. And I mean, we always make the complaint of like Scorsese's complaining like, oh,
you always make the complaint of the film too.
But yeah,
get it right.
But Scorsese's film Killers of the Flower Moon came out this year, and how long is that film set? It's also 3.5 hours.
Near 4.
It's about the same, and it's like, and Scorsese says, well, why are you complaining about long movies? You binge watch TV shows all the time. But here's the thing, pacing matters.
Well, and I think that's a big argument for why I like. I wouldn't accuse World on Wire of being overly long, because they do give you an intermission, and the same cannot be said about Mr. Scorsese. You know what I mean?
That is very true. It's very true.
Killers of the Flower Moon Part 1 and 2, where you switch angles and maybe not make Leo the center of your fucking movie the whole time. Maybe that's a better experience. Maybe this 26-year-old kid is like thinking outside the box, knowing that it's supposed to be seen.
He has to take a fucking Coke break. Okay.
Well, okay, listen, and I can't speak to his personal life, but I think an argument could be made that The Irishman was better in 2 sittings for me. You know?
Yeah.
I recently watched Goodfellas for the first time, and it was in 2 sittings.
Yeah. Endgame needed an intermission.
Dude, Endgame, literally, as soon as Nat dies, that's my, go take a piss. Like, you don't need to watch the Avengers cry.
Yeah, take a break, step out for a bit, compose yourself, and then go back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of films need to learn. We were just talking about this because we were talking about like Alamo Drafthouse or Cinebistros.
Oh yeah,
how they have intermissions. And,
good for them.
Like, that needs to come back, because sometimes these films can be fucking amazing, but sometimes your brain literally needs like a pause. You know, like I know when I'm at work, I can only sit and input data for so long without having to like sit up for a minute and like take a lap around and then go back. You know, you can't. Your brain will fry. You know.
Yeah. Even like David Lean movies like Lawrence of Arabia or Dr. Zhivago, they have an intermission at the 2-hour mark. Mm-hmm. They're both 4 hours long. They have intermissions at 2 hours.
Yes.
Beau is Afraid would have benefited from an intermission.
God, it would have.
Yes. Dune would benefit from an intermission. Like I feel like
we do get one. It's in 2 parts, Seth.
Shut up, Jesse.
Anyway, yeah, I would take intermissions. They can start. I will watch your 3-hour plus movies if you give me an intermission. I promise. Like I'll show up if you're gonna give me a potty break, give me a chance to like chat with somebody for a second. You know, like
really,
it's
like,
church. Treat movies like church, dude.
Yeah, didn't the Lord of the Rings have intermissions? Did that? I don't remember if it did or not.
I know when I saw my screening of Two Towers, we had an intermission. I think there was an intermission for Return of the King, but I was watching it at Regal at the time, and I think it was like specific to your theater if you got an intermission.
Yeah.
Okay.
My theaters at the time did not do it, but I was in like
I remember seeing
ghetto-ass PG County, so.
I
remember seeing one and had an intermission. It was probably Return of the King.
I might be Mandela affecting myself. I think there's an intermission in the DVDs because you have to switch from DVD 1 to DVD 2, and not that there's anything in the theaters.
Right. If you do the extended version of the films on DVD, it is an intermission because it goes from disc 1 to disc 2.
Because it's in Return of the King, it happens after Shelob's lair. That's where it cuts in at the next one. I'm Mandela affecting myself. It's intermission of the DVD. A better way to watch it too. Arguably, it physically forced you to take an intermission. Take that, bitch.
It's technically where Two Towers, the book ends, is the ending of Shelob's lair. That's technically the end of the second book.
Right.
So yeah, I still got him. Like right there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, long movies. Give it to me with an intermission. I'll take it.
Yes, we're not lazy, I promise. It's not that we're lazy. It's not that we're ADHD or, attention deprived. It's just, look, our brains work differently.
Literally how the functionality of a brain works.
Let's get into the physics of what is being asked of us as moviegoers. You're telling me
sit there, stare.
I have to sit for 3 hours, and if I want to support the theater, I have to get concessions, but my concession's this fucking big, so I've got a water tank next to me, essentially, to sip on for the whole movie.
A lot of theaters have bars now. Alcohol is a diuretic, so it goes through you a lot quicker than like a soda or water. Like,
and that's assuming I'm not pre-gaming before I go to the movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just saying, a lot's being asked of me as far as, like, a physical experience at the movies. Just give me a break in the middle. That's all I will commit my whole afternoon to the theater. Sometimes I will go and, like, double dip movies. You go in on one ticket, walk into the next theater, see the end of a Mission Impossible movie, or, you know, the back half of something. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, I'll do it. I just need a break. God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not lazy. I promise. It's that's not the issue. It's just our bladders are only so big.
I hate the accusation.
The mind is willing, but the body is spongy and bruised.
Right. I hate the accusation, and also crossing in front of people in the middle of a movie is like not a fun experience. You feel rude doing it, and so. I think a lot's being asked of us, and it doesn't need to be. And like to assume it's because we're lazy. The movie fans are doing their homework now. I have seen 30 plus fucking Marvel things. I do the homework. I'm not lazy.
And not even just Marvel. You have like like we just mentioned Mission Impossibles. How many are there now? So you have to like backtrack through the plot and the storyline. Like how many like cross cinematic things are there? Or series, or you know, it's
right.
Yeah, even just like I said, you know, like older movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey is it like 2.5 hours, something long? Is it 3 hours? I want to say
it's close to, but not quite. Let me.
But it comes with an intermission, doesn't it?
I think it does come with an intermission because it's broken up into chapters. Yeah.
Oh, it's only 139 minutes.
Oh wow! I thought it was longer.
2.5 hours. Oh. It's 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a movie that definitely could use an intermission because there's a huge shift halfway through the film.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when Hal finally turns evil, like that's they could have used one. But yeah, it's not that we're lazy. I promise. If Dysart's listening to this, I'm not lazy. God damn it, I'm not lazy. Okay, it's just I gotta go to work tomorrow, dude. Okay, look, I would love to be able to sit at home and work from home, but I don't have that luxury.
I think that's going to end up being my letterbox review for this episode. Is like simulation theory is cool and all, but I have work in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes, simulation's great, but I gotta go to work tomorrow. Fuck you, pay me.
5 stars.
Like, that's the thing. I just, you know, I am not opposed to a long movie if it is paced well. You know, it's like I bring it up all the time. Roger Ebert once said, you know, no good film is too long and no bad film is short enough. Mm-hmm. But the good film has to have good pacing.
I think Torque might have towed that line real hard for that sake.
God damn it. Of all the things that you're going to bring up on this episode, dude, of all things, Torque.
Well, we got to cross-promote. I feel like we're coming up to the end of the episode. I don't want to go over an hour.
Yeah, we'll cross-promote. Yeah, so... Yeah, that's the analysis there. Is that it's World on a Wire is critically important to film history. We can acknowledge that it is stupendous filmmaking for a 27-year-old to be making that in the 1970s. Oh,
fuck, dude!
If nothing else, the cinematography was god tier.
Yeah. I wasn't doing shit when I was 27. This motherfucker was making that. Like,
right.
You know what? More power to you, dude. Mm-hmm.
He had questions.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Werner. But and 13th Floor, ignore the reviews.
Criminally underrated. I'm marking
criminally
this one criminally underrated.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it like a classic. It's nowhere near as good as Existence or The Matrix or Dark City. This is the lower part of the simulation films that came out in 1999. But it's not bad.
No.
I wouldn't say it's bad.
I don't think it's meant to be skipped. Yeah, if you're going to watch Dark City and Existenz and The Matrix and
throw it in.
Yeah, don't skip this one. This is not one to skip within that group. It is going to pay off, I promise.
Yeah. There's value to all 4 of those movies.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Even just for Vincent D'Onofrio giving the most absolutely captivating and like real performance of not understanding what television is. Like that.
Oh, yeah. He's like, bring the world back.
As an actor, to be able to turn off your knowledge of something and make that real on screen, the man brought it.
Yeah. And when he finally gets into the server room, he's like, it's breathing. So this is where I live, and this is where you die. Blam!
Bro! Poetic as fuck!
And I was like, oh, it's great! It's great!
So good. So good.
Both characters died in the same room, the real one and the simulation.
God, it just criminally underrated. That's my take.
Yeah, it's the good shit. It's the good shit. Yeah, so if you have the time and you can stomach a long movie, and if you can sit through some of the boring parts of World on a Wire, go for it. I would say it's good for one big watch, and then maybe you won't watch it again. 13th Floor, throw it into a marathon of 90s sci-fi.
Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, we have one more episode for wrapping up the season. We're doing In Order of Disappearance versus Cold Pursuit, doing a Liam Neeson movie. This is going to be an interesting one.
Spoilers, Jesse's not going to have a good time.
Oh, good. Great. Well, we needed a really big dud for the season.
If nothing else, a reason to talk about... Right.
Yeah.
A reason to talk about Liam Neeson for a second.
Yeah, I thought about doing a marathon of like all the Liam Neeson action movies from Taken forward, and then I saw the list of them, and I was like, "Oh, fuck it."
And then you said, "Fuck
like
this shit."
Well, fuck it. I can't. They're all the same. They're all. What is the difference between Cold Pursuit and The Commuter and Taken? What is the difference?
And The Passenger
and The Passenger,
Abandoned, and
they're all the same. It's just his
Kidnapped.
Job now. Oh God, they're all the same. They're all the same. But yeah, we'll save that for 2 weeks from now, and that'll wrap up. I think that wraps up all of our seasons. I think that's the last thing we have to record for the season.
That sounds right to me. Yeah, we're coming to the close, and then we'll launch back in the early part of 24. In the future of the 13th floor.
Yes.
Oh God, it doesn't look like that, dude. Doesn't look like that, dude.
Maybe I'll go to Miami for our first episode and be like, Seth, look.
It is funny looking back at these movies and seeing like how they interpreted the future and how wrong they got it.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot they got right, but there's a lot that they got wrong. It's always funny to see like, what does 70s futurism look like? Well, sure as fuck doesn't look like Logan's Run. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Didn't that get a remake, Logan's Run?
Yes,
were they trying to do a remake? Oh my God.
Yikes.
All right. I'll throw it in somewhere. All right. So yeah, Seth, you wanted to cross promote. What's coming up on Film Rescue to wrap out our season? What do we got?
So we got Legion coming up. That's going to be an absolute barn burner because we got Ulrich from Geeks with Shields coming in, and he's coming in hot and angry.
Shocker.
And our previous episode was Torque, which still needs to go up.
Torque is out. Torque's out.
Oh, it's out?
Torque is out.
Hope you missed that. That was one of the most fun episodes I think I've ever done on Film Rescue. We laughed so goddamn much on that one.
Yeah, I was at a bachelorette party weekend.
Yeah. So we were all drinking.
We were all drinking anyways. It was great. It was great. And that's the shortest film I think we've ever had on Film Rescue. Only 80 minutes.
Nice and speedy, like a 200-mile-an-hour bike.
Oh my God.
Oh, God. Hope, what do we have coming up for you? Do you have anything going on at the moment?
We have our end of year, and we're going to have some special guests. We're going to have Josh Dyson.
That's right.
And also Daryl Dillard is coming back. Daryl was with us last year for our end of year. So I'm excited to have him back. Yay. And then and he was also on a Netflix movie this year, so we'll probably talk about that.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. What was the name of that? Was it Pain Hustlers? What it was called? That's right. Yep.
I might check that out.
Check out Pain Hustlers for our friend Daryl.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. And with that, good night.
Good night.